your comment right there, Julian, like I cringe because you can see the Western narrative playing out. It's not a stalemate. It's not a stalemate when there's still thousands of people dying every week. You know what I mean? There's 24,000 rounds a week being launched in terms of artillery from the Russian side. There's 4,000 to 6,000 rounds of artillery being launched a week from the Ukrainian side. Like it's not a stalemate.
What about the progress though?
This is what protracted war looks like, right? This is right out of the Army War College.
1,000,000%.
You've got anybody out there who's trying to say that Russia is winning right now, would you consider it, or anybody who's trying to say Ukraine is winning, if somebody else owns 20% of your house, you're not winning. Are you fighting back? Yeah, and Ukraine is fighting back. They have surprised the world over and over again. They shocked the world with a resistance in the first 2 weeks. They shocked the world with a counterattack. They shocked the world with what's going on in Kherson right now. Like this is what protracted war looks like. There's battlefield wins, there's battlefield losses. And especially when you're talking about Ukraine versus Russia, both of them were trained in the same school of combat, the Russian-Soviet school of combat, which is all about disinformation, misinformation, and trying to attack what nobody sees, right? So we never really know what's going to happen next in this conflict. We can try to make assessments, we can try to make predictions, but we should all expect that predictions are going to be wrong and assessments really should be weighted out with their probabilities, right? So what's coming? You know, the winter is coming. Russia still controls massive portions of Ukraine. Has Russia pulled back some of their advance? They've definitely pulled back. They've dug in. I've had folks who've come back from Ukraine saying it looks more like World War I out there. It's trench warfare.
Trenched up artillery pieces.
Only now
line
there's
of sight
drones.
Artillery. Yeah. I mean, the rounds fired, right? 24,000 a week. What most people don't understand is the shock effect. Even if there's no killing with regards to these explosions or these rounds, the shock effect is so severe that it's almost impossible. You see the old World War I and World War II videos of, you know, what's now classified as PTS or classified as like a closed head injury, a traumatic brain injury, those kinds of things. That's from the shock effect. That's from the fact that you're continuously hearing and getting hit on top of sites and areas, right? The other part of it is exploding rounds. These things explode like 20 yards above your head.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
And they
And
rain
then
down.
just rip you, you know? So that's, though, even if you survive that, you don't survive that. So I think that's kind of the situation that's in. They continue to just fire these particular artillery and drone rounds, and they're making progress in that fashion. There's no more traditional combat. There's no more, hey, hand to hand. There's no more of that stuff really going on.
When I was saying stalemate, by the way, because that was a bad word to use, because I didn't mean like, oh, there's no fighting going on. Seems like nothing.
No movement.
What I meant was have the lines changed. Like it's a good point. Russia is in 20% of the house, but like, have we seen Russia move to like 40% or seen Ukraine pushing back 5%? That's more what I'm wondering.
The strategic field of battle in Ukraine is the south. It's the land bridge to Odessa and Moldova. Right. It has never changed. Even if you look at the counterattack that started on August 29th, where did that counterattack make the most progress? In the north, right? The counterattack was brilliantly executed, and Zelensky even said himself that the reason they launched a counterattack in the north was because they knew they were about to lose ongoing support from NATO in the West. They needed to show battlefield victories in order to continue receiving support from the West. He knew it, and he publicly announced it. And then he said, that's why we launched a counterattack. And they launched a counterattack in the north and the south. The south barely moved. The north had massive gains. So they redirected all of their resources to the north. Why were they so successful in the north? Because for the preceding 2 months, Russia had been moving all of their forces to the south because they know the strategic value of Ukraine is to close off the southern end. If they need to call in help from Belarus, they will. And guess what they've been doing? Mobilizing troops in Belarus. So they weren't worried strategically about the north. They've always been focused on the south, which is why you've seen what you've seen in the south. And it's also part of the reason why what's happening in Hanson City right now is so relevant, because that is truly a strategic battle. All the stuff that happened up north was much less strategic. It wasn't worth launching a tactical nuke because they came in, up north and invaded even after they annexed that location. It's not worth it strategically to piss off NATO and piss off the West with nuclear weapons. This is exactly what Jim's talking about. You've got a loose cannon, an authoritarian leader who can make basically any call he wants to make, but then he's also working within the confines of his own system where he knows, like we talked about, Julian, he may make a call and the field officers don't obey. And that's part of the calculated risk he has to think through, right? So he changes battlefield commanders change their strategy, but the strategic goal has not changed. And winter is coming. 40% of the Ukrainian electrical grid is broken. We just you haven't heard this?
No.
This, again, straight out of American Military War College. You attack the electrical grid and you let winter do the fighting for you. Mm-hmm. There's rolling blackouts in Ukraine right now.
Is that
there's shelling in Ukraine
attacks?
right now? No, it's missiles hitting electrical relay stations. Like, they can't recreate that power.
Tier 1 stuff, man. That's what happens out of the box.